Dive. This is a game that is not out yet. What I have here is a prototype. I believe the game will be on Kickstarter soon. The publisher asked me if I was interested in taking a look at the prototype, and it looked interesting and intriguing, so I decided to play it, take a look at it, and make a video about it. So I need to clarify that this video is a preview in the sense that it comes out before the game itself, but it is a review. It is not a paid preview. I don't make those. I simply go in front of a camera, sometimes behind like now, and I tell you what I think about the game. So this is 100% my review of Dive, a game that is not out yet. In this game, players will dive in the water and they will try to go as deep as possible. It's basically, in essence, a race game. It is a race game. It can also be played solitaire in the sense that there is an automated swimmer, and so you can play alone against that swimmer. You can also even add the automaton to a regular multiplayer game in case you want to have the option of everybody losing against the automaton to make the game more challenging. It is a game that you can play with adults and you can play with children. I only played it solitaire. And with children, meaning with my daughters that are currently 8 and 10, they could definitely play the game. It wasn't too complicated for them. But the 8-year-old, she could understand the rules, but gameplay was a little too hard for her to play well, and so we had a little bit of a rage quit there. But the 10-year-old actually can play the game competently, and she really likes the game. So definitely a family game, and after the pandemic, when I can have a game night with adults again, then I think I will really enjoy playing this game with adults also. The game is unusual and looks very strange because its main element is this stack of plastic transparent cards that represent different layers of the ocean, and they may have sharks on them, they may have holes to make it a little harder to tell which layer is which, they may have turtles which may be red like in this case, may be green like in other cases, and I cannot find out. There it is, that's a green one. There may be manta rays somewhere. There are. I swear I've saw them. I just, of course, can't find one when I want to. Just believe me. If you don't believe me, why are you watching my videos anyways? During setup, you take this stack of cards, you shuffle them, and by shuffle them, you also, as you can see, turn some of them in different directions, different orientation. And then you'll place them in the middle of this game piece here, of this frame here. And of course, I told you earlier, this is a prototype, so the final product will look different. This has been assembled manually by the makers, and so when you get the professional copy, it will look more professional. Basically, the heart of the game is you look at the stack of cards and you're programming your movements, trying to figure out what's going to be in each layer. Figuring out what's on the top layer is kind of easy, although sometimes even tricky, especially because if you look at an angle, then you should be able to tell, yeah, looks like there's a shark there on level 1. Each player has a board such as this one, and a screen behind which you will program your actions. Also reminds you of the token of your color that goes on that board, and you will move it as you descend there. And basically the first player to reach space 23rd on this track wins the game. So you have this board, and you also have 5 tokens with numbers from 1 to 5, and they're double-sided. On one side you only have the number, on the other side the number and the shark. At the beginning of each turn, everybody programs their moves for the turn, and you do so by placing tokens here. You must place tokens in these bubble spaces here from top to bottom, and you must again fill them up top to bottom, and you can place them in any order. You don't have to put 1 on top or 5 at the bottom. You can even place multiple ones. The only thing that you have to decide is whether you're gonna place the tokens in a certain space with the shark side up or the non-shark side up. This would be an illegal placement, 1 shark and 1 non-shark. And so for now, follow this and then you'll see why I do what I do. For example, I say, well, the first level looks like it has a shark, and so I place it there. The idea is for each level that I want to descend, each level being represented by one of these cards, I'm going to place a token or a stack of tokens, and I need to make the decision of whether I believe that level has a shark or not. I believe that level has a shark, and so I'm going to do that. I believe the next level does not have a shark, and so I put that token there that way. I believe the following level also doesn't have a shark. For reasons that I'll explain later, I'm going to put 2 tokens there, a 4 and a 3. Why do I do so? Again, bear with me. And I gamble the 4th level has that one. If I put 1 token per level, then it means I'm trying to descend down for up to 5 levels. By occupying fewer spaces, which I do by stacking my tokens, in the best case scenario, I'll go down by 4 levels using these tokens. But again, why would you stack them? You'll see why. Once everybody has programmed their moves, you remove the screen and you start evaluating. Somebody picks up the first layer and says out loud what's there. Okay, there is a shark. So if you get that right, in my case, I got that right. Shark there, hooray. Then I take that token and I move it to this side of the board. Maybe it'd be nice to have something, an area design there, to indicate that I successfully moved through level 1 because I guessed whether there was a shark or not. And there's nothing else, so I don't need to resolve anything else. Level 2, remember, I gambled that there were no sharks, and there are no sharks, and so that also is correct. Level 3, I gambled that there were no sharks, and I'm correct again, but there's also a turtle. Now, if you're correct about the sharks in a layer that also has turtles, then all the people that were correct, among those, you look at the one that has the highest total. For example, I have a total of 7 there, and that person only gets an advantage. So if I guess right in a layer that has a red turtle and I have the highest total, I get to move 2 spaces as indicated there on the player, 2 spaces on that track. And so I immediately move by 2. Hooray! That's why from time to time, if I can't figure out what is on the 5th layer, then I may as well actually invest a bunch of tokens on a higher level, on a higher layer, that has a chance of giving me plus 2 spaces if I have the majority and the correct guess in a space with a red turtle, plus 1 space if I have the right answer and majority of points in an area with the green turtle. Manta rays, if I have the right answer about the sharks and I have the highest total in a layer that has a manta ray, then I actually get to move on that track enough to reach the next person on the track. If I'm the first player, then I don't have that advantage. So there's a little bit of rubber banding there, in that the manta rays do not help the leader. And so here I have 3 layers that I successfully navigated, and then actually, look at this. The 4th one, I have predicted a shark, and so that is also correct. And so 1, 2, 3, 4 that I advance there. If my guess was not right, if my guess had not been right about shark or non-shark, well, they simply stop. Suppose that actually I guessed those 2 layers right, and then that one was wrong. So I removed that one and all the ones below. Basically, you get to actually move only by the number of layers that you guess. As long as you make a mistake, that layer and the ones below don't apply anymore, which is also why sometimes, again, you want to spend your tokens to improve your total in layers you're comfortable with, confident about, rather than just try your luck going down a lot. One different thing, one change happens when you enter the darker side of that track. Then those are dangerous dark waters. You want to be more careful. When you're navigating that area, then actually making a mistake does not just remove all the tokens from the mistake down. Removes all of your tokens. Basically, when you're navigating the final dark section of the track, a single mistake means that you don't advance at all that turn. Again, giving an opportunity to other people to catch up. This is how you play Dive. Dive is a fun game. It's just as simple as that. That's the short version. And there is a lot more than meets the eye. When I read the rulebook and I look at the stack of cards, I thought this game was going to be a little too random, a little too basic. But even as a light game, clearly this is not going to be, necessarily the centerpiece of a game night among hardcore gamers. It can be a diversion. It can be the filler, bit of a filler for sure. Plays in 30 minutes or less, but it works as a light game. It works as a family game. If your kids don't get too frustrated, then it works that way also. And that's why the majority of the games that I played have been with 2 players only, and they've been with my 10-year-old daughter Amelia, and we had a good time. The task is very simple. It's very intuitive. Try to figure out whether there's a shark or not. That's the thing that you need to do. If on top of that, then you also figure out if there's a turtle there, if there is a manta ray there, and then you have that other extra level, which is what are other people doing, which is really when the game in its simplicity elevates itself to another level. Again, it never becomes a hardcore game, but there is good thinking in there as I'm trying to figure out, of course. Well, I think my daughter has figured out on the second layer there is a green turtle, so she's gonna pile up a lot of stuff. Now on the third level, it looks like there is a red turtle. So should I try to just give up the second layer and I try to pile up my points on the third layer? Or should I try to do well enough on both, hoping that my daughter makes a mistake somewhere else? So you're trying to figure out also what other people are seeing, where are they gonna invest to try to get those bonuses, and that is really what makes the game even more interesting. There is a bluffing element, or at least there is an element in which you're trying to figure out what the players are doing, how much they're willing to risk, etc., etc., etc. Now, if you play the game enough, you will notice certain patterns. I'm not going to tell you exactly what they are, but you saw that some cards have holes to make perception a little trickier. But actually, if you own the game and you just look at the stack of cards one by one, you'll notice there are certain dominant patterns. Cards with a certain number of holes tend to have certain things rather than others. And once you know that, even if you can't see anything about the card, you know that a shark is more or less likely to be there. Some cards have giant things like a whale or giant tentacles. There is a pattern there about what else is or is not there. Once you know it, if you're introducing the game to new players, should you tell them? Should you give them a crib? Is that going to be public knowledge? So that's something that I don't know. I'm just wondering. I started playing the game together with my daughter, so we played at the same time. We figured out those things at the same time, so we have the same knowledge. I just wonder if that's something you may want to take into account when you introduce new players, or not if you decide that you want to have an unfair advantage because you know some of those patterns. Again, it doesn't concern me overtly, doesn't worry me too much, but it's something that I thought I'd mention. I think the game is going to look very pretty in the final version from the art that I see. So when the material production just does justice to the beautiful art that I see, the theme is interesting and fun. It's a race game that has an element of bluffing, of reading the opponent's intentions. It has a unique take on programming because it's not just about interpreting the environment, but also about, again, investing resources and choosing if you want to risk on a long dash or go for a shorter burst of activity that, however, may help you with those bonuses. So for a game this simple, in which you're literally just looking at a stack of transparent plastic cards and trying to figure things out, for a game this simple, it has enough meat, enough angles, enough elements that play into it to make for a fun, interesting experience. So Dive is a very entertaining game, a game that you can play with your children, not all of them, not all of mine, so I don't know about yours, but with some kids. And as a late game, you can also play with adults as a filler mainly, but as a good filler, and definitely is a unique game because I don't think I've ever seen a game that relies on such an unusual mechanic. So Dive, really fun game.